Yeah, hi. So I'm Diane Billas. I'm a queer young adult author. I have two books that are published. One is my debut novel is a sapphic story called Does Love Always Win? And then my second book that just came out in September is called Superficial. It's a queer superhero action adventure book.
What inspired Superficial?
So Superficial was inspired by my own time being at a Comic-Con convention in Philadelphia. So the book is actually set in Philly at a Comic-Con convention because I had such a great time at that. And I also really love Marvel movies.
Yeah.
So I was just like, man, what if I would write my own superhero story? And then that's how Superhero was born, Superficial was born.
There's nothing wrong with going to a Comic-Con convention. They're so much fun. And also like the cosplays and everything are like, amazing. So yeah, it's really cool to have a story based off that.
Yeah, I hadn't seen too many like that, so I thought it would be something unique take on it.
Mm.
And then the superhero, like so the one of the main characters, Jake, is he's one of the celebrities appearing at the Comic-Con convention, but then he's actually a superhero in real life and no one really knows it.
That's that's really cool. I love that take of it. What drew you to writing in the first place? Did you always know you wanted to be a writer?
So I started writing when I was 6 years old because I loved reading so much that I just wanted to try writing my own stories. And my mom gave me some paper and I started writing stories and illustrated them as well. But then I kept seriously writing throughout high school and then college. I dropped off a little bit because kind of like busy with college and everything. But I picked it up around 2015 and started writing my first novel ever. And I just have continued to do it since then.
I think it's always like when you start when you're a kid, it'll either stick with you or sort of it's always going to be at sort of around college like it drops off because you just get so busy with everything.
You really do. And I was just like, all right, I really need to get back into this because I loved it so much. And then I was like, all right, I had when I was in sixth grade, I remember looking in the mirror at myself saying, you're going to be a writer someday and you're going to publish a book. So I remembered that and I'm like, I need to actually go through with it.
You want to hold the promise that you said to your younger self.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm super excited that I did that.
How did you choose which character center to center the stories around?
Yeah, so in Superficial, the main character, her name is Lay. She is one of the people attending the Comic-Con conventions. And I made her pansexual and demisexual like myself. So I wanted to have someone that like represented me in the book. But as I was writing, all of a sudden Jake's character started coming in first person too. And I was like, okay, so this is happening in a dual perspective. Because I mainly was going to have the one person in the point of
Hmm.
view, but I thought it would be interesting to also see from the superhero point of view what's going on and like the behind the scenes stuff.
I'm always very curious to how right like authors decide that it's going to be a dual point of view. So it's interesting that you said that, the second point came straight out and like, yeah, okay, then I guess your
Yeah,
point
I
is
just
going
started
to
writing it
be.
and I was like, wait a second, this is not what I was expecting.
Did you find one point of view easier to write than the other?
Yeah, Lay's was definitely a lot easier. It's harder for me to write like a guy. So I
Yeah.
gave the book to my husband and he helped me. He's like, okay, a dude wouldn't say that. I'm sorry.
Oh,
This
okay. Maybe in the it's a fictional world though, they could have.
But they could have, but not from the, I guess, because he read the whole thing, so he saw how the guy talked
Yeah.
a lot, and he's just like, all right, I think you need to change this one a little bit. I was like, "Ah, that makes sense. It was nice to have that perspective.
Helpful to have a male read it and be very
Exactly,
helpful.
yeah.
Sometimes they're not helpful.
Got to take everything with a grain of salt.
Yeah. What was your process for writing your book? Did it change
So,
between your debut and Superficial?
yeah, so for my debut book, Does Love Always Win? That one very much was pantsed. I like just wrote for the seat of my pants, didn't plot anything. Um, but then for Superficial, I ran into some problems because it's a mystery too. So they're trying to figure out who in the city is stealing artifacts from Philadelphia's major museums. So I needed to kind of plan that out and put in some clues, but not too many clues. So I first pantsed a little bit of it, and then I plotted some more of it.
I always think that's a balance between pantsing and plotting. I think I might be on the would be on the side of plotting a little bit, but sort of it's a guide, not a rule.
Yes. Well, so my book that I'm editing right now, it's a young adult murder mystery. So that one I really had to plot.
I think the mystery and like thrillers, you would have to plot a lot more than sort of just like your general romance.
Oh yeah, definitely. I was like, oh, this is different. But it was kind of nice because as I was writing that book, I was in the middle of edits for Superficial. So I had to go bounce back between the projects. And having that outline really helped me realize what I was thinking from before. I was like, oh, this is nice. I can just keep working.
Helpful. Thank you, past self, helping
Yes,
me.
exactly.
What's your approach to world and character building?
Yeah. So I, with all my books, in the beginning, I pants it. So that's how I get my ideas. I just like, once I have something, I just want to start writing immediately. But then after I get like my main idea out, that's when I start doing the world building and the character building. So I write out all of the different characteristics about each one of the characters, and then I start to think about where they're going to be, what's setting, and the things like that.
I think that's a good way to go instead of like trying to plan everything out before you start writing. I think you'd be stuck just at
Yeah,
the stage and not sort of moving forward past that.
and then sometimes like new characters appear as I'm like writing and like something else with the world. I'm like, oh, this is cool. And then I like get back in my other document and start to add that in. So they're like flexible.
Good way to go. Did you have a favorite moment to write in Superficial?
I would definitely say the Comic-Con convention parts. It just kind of brought me back to when I was there, and it was just fun to relive that moment. The Comic-Con convention that I went to had like all the Avengers cast. It had Tom Hiddleston and Chris Hemsworth and Chris Evans, and it was an epic time. So it was fun just to kind of relive that as I was writing Superficial.
That'd be a really good one to
Yeah,
go
I was
back.
very lucky. It's the only one I've been to, but it's kind of hard to beat that.
Can't beat that Comic-Con at all.
No.
Which of the characters do you relate to the most and why? I know you mentioned that you relate most to the female. Please.
Yeah, because we identify the same way, and just some of her characteristics are a little similar to me. Not everything. Um, she is into museums a lot. She wants to be an archivist and to work at a museum. I thought that was, and she loves history. I'm not a history person, but she has trouble trusting people because her ex-girlfriend was cheating on her. So I actually had an ex who kind of did something similar to me. So had trouble trusting my heart with people.
Was it sort of therapeutic writing and resolving that through your character as well, or it's just a
Yeah,
fun.
absolutely. I feel like writing is very cathartic. Um, from with that point of view, and then when Does Love Always Win, there's a villain that blackmails the main character, and I had something similar to that happen, and that was really cathartic to have that happen like in there and just kind of like work through it through that character and seeing how she grows and learns from it.
I guess it's will mirror with the growth that you've had as well. So it's really good to see the mirror in the books.
Yeah, and having more like representations of normal things that happen to people
Yeah.
and like how they deal with it.
'Cause it's sort of things that aren't talked about or mentioned. It's something that's sort of hidden away. So it's really good to see it represented in books.
Especially in young adult books, because sometimes people like steer away from like harder topics. But I'm like, no, it's important. Everyone goes through these kind of things, and they might have the same issue.
And they need to read it. They could need to have someone to connect to as well.
That's why I write all queer characters in my books too. Because growing up, I never had any queer books, and I didn't really come out to myself until college. So I feel like if I had queer books available to me, I could have known more about myself earlier.
Definitely. How has writing and publishing books changed the way you see yourself, if it has?
I don't know if it really changed the way that I see myself, except that I feel like I'm more capable of like reaching my goals.
Mm.
I'm proud of how of the accomplishments that I have, and I'm looking forward to seeing how my career um continues as I'm writing more books.
It's always like you achieve something and you sort of go, okay, the next step is this, and I know I can actually probably achieve it because I have achieved my goals that I set out.
Yeah. Just kind of I'm reassessing what my goals are now. Like, all right, what's next?
Are there any authors or books that inspired you to become a writer or in your writing?
Yeah, so Becky Alboretti, who wrote lots of queer books. First one that I had read of Simon versus the Homo sapien agenda. She made me feel okay that could write these queer books and that they would be picked up because that was the first time I saw it become turned into a movie like Love Simon and those kind of things. And she's so honest with her followers about how she had to come out. She felt forced to come out by getting so much flack of writing a queer story and they said she wasn't queer. So I just feel like she's such an authentic person and she's paved the way for other queer writers.
You need that authentic people sort of there to say, yes, it's okay, and you can do it. And sort of you don't have to be anything but yourself.
Yes, she's how I guide myself because I try to be authentic in all my social media posts and just like when I'm talking to people, I'm just like, this is me, this is what you get.
Too bad if you don't like it.
Yep. You don't have to
No,
like me.
not changing to suit you at all.
No.
What advice would you give to a writer working on their first book?
So this sounds very cliche, but just keep writing because
Mm.
that's my first book that I ever wrote. I ended up having to shelve it. It just wasn't right for the market, and honestly, and I've gone back to it, and it needs a lot of help. You grow as a writer each book that you write, and you never know which one is the one that's really going to connect with your readers or an agent or a publisher. So just keep writing, keep putting those stories out there and putting yourself out there, even though it's so hard when you're getting the rejections. It's just like rejection after rejection, you just like want to give up. But I can't even tell you how many rejections that I've gotten. On Does Love Always Win? I ended up having to pull it for a little bit, and I hired an editor to help me to work through it, just to kind of like work through my thoughts and everything. And that's the second. That's when it got picked up. So feel like go and try different things. If something's not working, try something else.
Don't give up.
Yes, for sure.
Never give up. Were you given any advice that sort of has stuck with you?
So that's one definitely that was given to me. Just keep trying. If it doesn't work, try something else.
Mm.
And
I
something
think
else was given to me is to connect with the writer community. Before it used to be Twitter, but now Threads has been pretty good for the writer community. There's Blue Sky. Find other writers. That's who will lift you up and help you throughout your career.
they're also like the unsung cheerleaders for everyone.
They really are. I have so many writer friends. Like we talk like every single day. And if you're getting those queries of rejection, they're the ones that understand and will like help you through a hard time, but also be so happy for you when you get published.
No one cares. You all support each other. You just
Exactly. We're
want
not
the best for
competitors.
everyone.
We're
Mm.
all there for each other.
What's your favorite writing snack or drink?
Oh. So I usually do my writing in the morning. So I eat my breakfast, which is usually like steel cut oats and like a coffee. But if I'm writing like on a weekend or outside when it's like really nice, I love having like an iced coffee.
I can't go wrong with coffee at all.
No,
Until
gotta
maybe not
fuel
at
yourself.
night.
Oh
Maybe
yeah,
not.
no, I don't really write at night because I have a day job.
Yeah.
So like by the time I'm done job and I have a 2-year-old, so I'm just like, okay, I gotta do it in the morning or else it's not gonna get done.
My social battery and my just battery in general is done. It's like 4 o'clock.
Yes, I get that.
Do you play music while you write? And if so, what's your favorite music?
It's kind of that's a funny question because I am a musician myself. I play the French horn and the piano. I'm
I
classically trained.
I used to play
Um,
the French horn in primary school.
oh, really?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, you don't find that many French horn players.
No.
That's how my husband and I met. We both played in a community orchestra. I was the second horn player. He was the fourth horn player. The third horn player didn't show up for a little bit, and that's how we started talking.
That's so cool.
But so think I would play music, but I just get distracted by music. So unless there's a lot of background noise around me, because I used to commute to work on the train. So when I did writing then I would have classical music playing in the background. Now that I work remotely, I like silence.
You sort of need the silence before all the noise starts as well.
Yes, before all the meetings and
Yeah.
all that stuff.
And my final question is, who has been the biggest supporter of your writing?
Definitely my husband. He's like my first reader and always like championing me and like telling me to keep going if I'm like stuck in a thing. He's definitely, but then before him, he arrived on the scene, my best friend in like we met in sixth grade. I'd always send her my writing even back then, and she still reads my writing today, before it's like even published.
That's amazing that best friend from primary school, like sixth grade, also now just still supporting.
I know. She even like had Does Love Always Win her book club read it, which I thought was so
Oh,
sweet.
that's so sweet. That's so good. It's always good when the people closest to you sort of cheer you on and help you along as well.
It really is. I feel very lucky.